to name records. And the first one we want to look at is called the name code field. Let's go and see where we find that. We're going to go to the Donors tab, Name List Management, and we're just going to select one of the names that someone has set up here in the training company. And the very first field here we see is the name code field. Notice that this field is a free-form field. That means that you can type anything you want there. That is both good and bad. It's good because you can type anything you want. It's bad because you may type something one way while someone else may type it differently. When it comes time to use that field as a filter in a report, those different ways of entering the code will cause Denari to not give you the complete list. So for the most part, this field should not be used for coding donors when you need to filter on them later. It can be used, however, for display. If you look at the search screen for name records, and we'll go back to that. Again, you see our list of fields here, and you see that the name code field is one of the options. And that allows us to, at a glance, see this coded field. We can also search by the name code field. If we come up here to the list of search options, we see that name code is one of the options. And so we can use that field for searching purposes. Another way to code name records is with the name type field. This field is required, which means that all names in your data must have a name type assigned to them. The name type field is a drop-down field, which means that you must first create the list of codes that you want to use with your data. Let's look at how we can create that list. So we're going to go to the Donors tab, and we'll come down here to Name Types. And here we see a list of the name types that some people have already created here in the training company. And we can click Add New. I'm just going to click one that's already here just to show you. It's very simple. You're just going to type in your description. The hide from OLC is irrelevant in most cases. And so you're just going to type the description there and click Save. This field is used to group donors together into large groupings, and we highly recommend that you keep your list of name types very short. Most organizations start with just individual and organization. The reason for this is that Denari is set to use this field in reports in kind of macro filtering. For example, you may want to do a mailing to anyone who gave more than $500 last year, but you want to limit that to just individuals. Name type is perfect for that. But let's say you have decided to use name type for other codes like people with blue eyes, tall people, etc. If you want to find a list of people who have both blue eyes and tall people, you can't do that using name type. It will only allow one filter at a time. There are better codes to use to get this type of report. And let's quickly just go and see where we find the name type field. We'll go to the Donors tab, Name List Management, and we'll pick our donor here. And here we have the name type field. Now, it shows up here as with a question mark search field because people, again, in the training company have created so many of these that there's a large number of them in the data. But in reality, in your data, you should only have a couple, maybe 3 or 4 at the most. And so yours will be a drop-down field, but you'll need to select the name type there. Another name-related code is called jurisdiction. It too is a drop-down field, so you'll need to create that list as well. However, this code is optional. You don't have to use it if it's not needed. Let's look at where we go to set up the jurisdiction list. We go to the Donors tab again, come down here to Jurisdiction, and again we see a list of jurisdictions that people have created. I'll just click one that's there, but again you can click Add New if you want to. We're going to put in a description, a code, whether or not it's active. We can select an appeal code and a fund code, and these are both optional fields. There is a name upload function, or I'm sorry, a gift upload function that uses the jurisdiction. And so if you select the jurisdiction for a particular gift, that fund and appeal code is applied to that gift record during the upload. Most people don't use that, so most of the time the fund and appeal code here is going to be optional. And you won't need to worry about that. So all you really need here is a description and a code, and and make it active or inactive. The promotion jurisdiction is also going to be irrelevant for most users. The original purpose for jurisdiction was to indicate ownership of a name record. For example, you may have someone in your organization who is responsible for your major donors. You would, in this example, set up the name of that person in the jurisdiction list. Now go to each name record and link that name to that person. You can now use that field to get a list of donors that person is responsible for. You can target mailings to them, check on their giving progress, produce a call list, etc. Jurisdiction has also been used when staff members are responsible for raising personal support. They can be set up in the jurisdiction list and assigned to their donors as well. Some organizations have used this field for other things. For example, radio stations who have multiple broadcast points with a variety of call letters have used this field to show which station their donors are listening to. This allows them to target mailings and other information to the correct audience. This field is a little more flexible when it comes to reports than name type, but not a lot. It does not allow you to include multiple jurisdictions as filters, for example. So let's go to a name record and we'll show you where you'll find that field. We'll scroll down here and you'll find the jurisdiction field here. And we see in this name record somebody has already selected that. Another possible way to code donors is with the caseworker code. This one is very similar to jurisdiction. However, it's not quite as flexible when it comes to reporting. We see that over here. It is just like name type in that you can only use it to select one set of names at a time. And again, you will create your list by going back here to the Donors tab. And we come down here to Caseworker. And here's a list of the caseworker items that people have already created. And again, it's relatively simple. You create the description here, you put in a code. In this case, you have to tie this to a user, and a user being somebody in your set up to use Denari. And so you'd click that list and select who that user is and click Save to create that caseworker list. So again, caseworker is similar to jurisdiction in that it's used to connote ownership of a name record and then allow you to filter on that to get that list of names. Now for a code that violates the rule about codes being specific to their entity. I told you earlier that appeal codes belong to GIFs. That was back in session 1 of the codes group. They tell you what fundraising function generated a gift. Appeal codes can also be used for name records. Appeal codes can also tell you where name records came from. So let's see how they're used. We're going to go to the Donors tab here, Name List Management, and we're going to click Add New. So we're adding a new name record to our data, and you can see that we would fill in all the name and address information here above. And then down below we have source code. When you add a new name record, you must assign one to that name. You see that it's required. It tells you what fundraising function generated this name. This allows you to analyze your names to determine which fundraising functions produce new names and or donors. When you click the search function here, you are seeing the same appeal code list that you see for gifts and pledges. So you can create new ones from the Gifts tab or the Donors tab. They are the same list. There's one concept here that often confuses new Denari users. Let's say that someone comes to your fundraising banquet. They are new to you, have never been entered into your data, and they also give a donation. You've already created your banquet appeal code. When you add the donor to your data, you assign that appeal code because the banquet is the instrument that generated that new person. When you add that gift, you also assign the appeal code to that gift. Now, what happens when you send the donor a solicitation letter and they make a second donation? Should the appeal code previously assigned to the donor now be changed? The answer is no. The donor came to you through the banquet. That will always be true. That will never change. But any gifts that he or she may give in the future will have the appeal code of the fundraising function that generated them. Most donors have a single source code linked to their name record, but many different appeal codes linked to their gifts. So let's stop there and we'll pick this up in the next session.